Content presented in Cheshire Corners is for educational and informational purposes only. Please consult a legal professional if you have any questions or concerns about the content of this disclaimer, this series, or the legal implications surrounding psychedelic substances in your jurisdiction.
Welcome to Cheshire Corners. My name is Rita Tsaluk. We're here in Colorado. Beautiful day. David here with us is our new guest from Israel. And let's trip together through the looking glass. David, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Rita. Yeah, I'm from England originally, so I know Cheshire very well. But yeah, now I'm in Israel through many countries and different evolutions of myself. So it's lovely to see you.
Yeah, lovely to see you too. I watched a lot of your podcast when you were doing them for Psychedelic Today, right?
Yeah, I don't know how many I did, maybe 50 podcasts and webinars. Brilliant. I got to meet the best people in the world from, science and policy, research, therapy. It's amazing.
Great, yes, and I learned a lot from those podcasts myself. So it's pleasure, it's big honor to talk to you right now. So David Drapkin, is that correct?
I think so. I don't know how they would have pronounced it in the old country back in Russia, Drapkin, but yeah. My friend,
that's what I do, yeah.
Yeah, they arrived in England in 1900, somewhere from Russia, I don't know where. And then we pretended to be English, and it seemed to have worked.
But now you live in Israel, so you're probably getting a little bit of an Israeli accent on top of it.
My kids have an amazing Israeli accent, they really do. But my Hebrew's terrible, so I'm learning very slowly. Been here about a year and a half.
Very good. Stay safe there.
Yeah, trying my best. Thanks, Rita.
I was just talking to David on the phone just a few minutes ago, and I was trying to understand how I should introduce David. And I'm thinking, David is somebody who has a lot of knowledge, who've been places that nobody ever been before, or some people been there, and they want to share and collaborate. And I think we're all looking for this knowledge. And he's kind of like a consultant from the other side of the moon, somebody who went further than a lot of us are. So in real life, he is social worker, licensed social worker in the state of New Jersey. And he's doing coaching and therapy. And what else? David, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, you got it. From the other side of the moon. So I wear different hats, Rita. I'm someone who's lived quite a colorful life, moved around the world. I've done a lot of healing on myself. So I can speak from that perspective of someone who knows depression, OCD, suicidal thoughts. And I know, how hard it can be to simply live. And psychedelics and cannabis have helped me at different parts of my life. So I can speak as a human being that knows darkness and pain, and also light and freedom and liberation. And I love the potential of psychedelics to heal, but to do so through enabling us to find something deep within us that maybe we lost or got stuck or feels broken, that we might have got disconnected from. And so that is a beautiful dance that we do of rediscovering ourselves, and of giving ourselves another try to become something new that we've never been before, which is whole and real and authentic. So I'm still in that process of doing that for myself, but because I've, had quite a few decades of healing and surviving, I can speak about both sides of life, dark and light.
So that's great because we are writing here at Cheshire Corners the Psychedelic Bible. So now, guys, we're going to listen to the story of David. And with that, I would really ask you, please like us. We're really good here. Please subscribe. Please leave comments. Really appreciate you.
The story of David, yeah. So sometimes I talk about like my childhood and how difficult it was, and the sense of self-identity that felt like it was kind of broken or there was something wrong with it. I don't know if I'm going to do that now. That's just a little bit about it. So who I'm trying to be right now is just a better human being, better husband, and better father, and a bit more authentic, a bit more able to be honest with myself about what today, what this week, what this month, what this year I need to be focusing my attention on. And I call it integration work. So part of what I want to talk about, Rita, is life as integration. So thinking about all of these threads of energy that we have kind of absorbed since we were born in our life, but also that we have inherited from our ancestors and from all the cultures that we've kind of grown up in or been influenced by. These are all kind of energetic linkages and threads kind of run straight through us. And so when we look at life as being a way of, in a sense, weaving these threads of energy together, when we take a step back, is it that has become woven in front of us? So what is this piece of clothing that we wear in my face, my name, my body, my voice, my story, my kind of biography, my identity, all of these beliefs that I have, what's right, what's wrong, what am I ashamed of, what am I aspiring towards, what are my weaknesses? So all of these are just energetic threads that have been woven together. And, I find psychedelics help people to be more real about how complex we are, how many layers that we are made of. It's not just this thin veneer on the surface that is me. It's like infinite layers and interwoven threads of self that express themselves as me. And it's constantly changing. It's not fixed, it's dynamic and vibrant and always changing. So that's the first, in a sense, principle we have to understand. We are just so complex. We're basically a mystery and a miracle in a human body. And we have to accept that as the number one basic kind of assumption. And then whatever happens afterwards is like, wow, so I better get to know myself better. I better become more whole. I better be more real. I better learn to love myself a bit more and have more positive impact on the world because I am just so deep. And everybody is just so deep. And we have so much potential for connection and for just building something meaningful as a community. So that's just my initial idea of why I think I'm here to talk to you.
Yes, but how did story of David started? David was born in England, right?
David was born in England, 1978. I was born into like a upper middle class Jewish family in the town of Birmingham. And I have 3 older siblings. A lot of trauma from the past that I didn't know much about the details of. So most of my family were murdered in Germany in the Holocaust. My mum's family were all German. About 20 of them were murdered. About 4 or 5 of them survived and came to England. And then my dad's side of the family were murdered in Russia and Poland and came to England in 1890 and 1900. So I knew these stories, but the stories were never told. They were like these stories that were closed books. And so it was a part of me that was always kind of hidden and locked away. The pain of, in a sense, being Jewish. So one of the first things I did, which was a big life decision, was I rejected being Jewish. I ran away from it. And in a sense, I tried to kill the Jew inside of me because it was just too painful, too complicated. And I just wanted to be normal and not be Jewish because being Jewish is not normal. It has never been normal. So, and then I've gone through many different stages of evolution and revolution. And thank God I've come back to being Jewish in my late 20s. So, about 15, 20 years ago, I came back. And I've been through a lot of different countries. I've been through quite a lot of different religions in the past, particularly Buddhism and Hinduism. Lived in temples and monasteries and stayed a few nights in a mosque and a church as well. Lived in the jungle and forests and deserts and meditation centers. And all of this is kind of a little dance within myself where a bit of me was trying to run away from myself and run away from humanity and society and just be alone in nature. And a bit of it was also more deeply and more slowly preparing me just to see myself more authentically in the mirror. Who am I really? And I'm 46 now, and yeah, I feel like I'm still kind of at the beginning of getting to know myself and being honest with myself about the darkness and the light within me and how to dance with that together. They're both true. And in the past, I tried to deny that. I just wanted happiness and to be light and to be liked by people and to be successful. So that's not my goal anymore. So yeah, right now I'm just trying to embrace the complexity of life and how it is within me.
I'm wondering if you ever watched the movie Everything is Illuminated. And if you haven't, go and watch it. This is a movie about you. And it's a movie about me and about all of us. And it's just so deep. And it's so cool. And it's so funny. And it's the only movie about Holocaust that I'm able to watch to the end. Because I just... yeah, it's very, very deep and hard. But that movie gets you so much... It's a book, but it gets you so much energy to survive and to live and to strive. It's very good.
Yeah, it reminds me of what you're talking about with that. Everything is Illuminated. The work of Viktor Frankl and Logotherapy. I've been talking about that, and he survived Auschwitz in the concentration camps, and then he became a therapist, psychologist, I think. And something that he says, which is similar to Gabor Mate, is around the suffering that we go through, the trauma that we hold within us. That is, in a sense, our treasure. Well, that's the key to unlocking our treasure. And unless we can embrace our pain, our darkness, our trauma, our suffering, then we're not our true self. We can never heal. We can never be whole. So we're turning that, in a sense, those situations of pain and of darkness, we're challenging ourselves to find meaning from them or within them in the very moment. As survivors, as resilient human beings, you know, we are incredibly so resilient human beings. We've been through so much collectively and individually. We're amazing, and yet obviously we're causing a lot of damage as well. But wow, humans are amazing. Like, we're incredible, complex creatures. I love us. I think that's why I became a therapist, because I'm just fascinated by humans. Each of us is completely different. We've got our own story, our own mission in life. And for me, being a therapist and a coach, it's just a blessing that I get to help people explore their most unknown realms. And in a sense, looking at exploring space and discovering new planets or galaxies. It's a blessing to be able to help people explore and to rediscover themselves. I specialize in working with people that have addiction, substance use disorder, or trauma. And I have experienced myself depression and OCD and self-harm, suicidal ideation. And these are all very painful things. And at the same time, they're kind of messages from deep within us, from our soul, saying, don't give up. I can heal. I have a message for you. There's something new. There's something better. There's something worth living for in the future. Don't give up. And it's just, I feel like that's who we are as humans, what we've been through. That's our collective message.
A few days ago, I was debating with my friends what epigenetic is. And it just feels like we all have a little bit of what our ancestors have, our parents, grandparents, and people around us, and people in our countries. And that's Jews kind of interesting group of people too, because as we were spread around the world, Russian Jews look a lot like European, and the Jews on another side, they look like population in those countries, and they still connected. And if you kind of think from that side and you start thinking the same ways that people taking psychedelics see and feel. We're all connected. We all different and we're all part of one.
Yeah, and I've just started reading a book, Sapiens, by an Israeli author. I think his name is something like Yuval Noah Harari, I think. I just started it. I'm on page 30. So in the beginning, he's talking about kind of the history of Homo sapiens. And we've been around maybe 100,000 years, he was saying. Before that, there were Homo erectus, Homo, Neanderthal. We've been around so long. We've been through ice ages. There's so much inside of us we don't know about. Like, do we know who our great-grandparents were? Who our great-great-grandparents were? No, we don't. Our consciousness, our habits, and our DNA is inherited partially from them. And so that's what epigenetic trauma or epigenetic inheritance is all about. Like, it goes beyond just one or two generations. It goes way, way back. And we can change it as well. And the work of Rachel Yehuda, who you may know from Mount Sinai in New York, and she also works at the Bronx VA. She's specialized in, epigenetic changes and intergenerational trauma, in particular of second-generation Holocaust survivors and veterans. So she's doing work with MDMA, and some of the research shows actual biomarkers in the brain where intergenerational trauma lives, and how doing certain psychedelic therapy combined with psychotherapy, talk therapy, it gives us the ability to, in a sense, change some of that epigenetic inheritance. So we don't pass it on so much to our kids, but also that we just have more choice, like in how we act. Like when I was younger, I had a choice. Do I want to be a dad in exactly the same way that my dad was to me and how my mum was to me, or do I want to do some things differently? And my son, he will say, do I want to be like my dad? And he'll be like, well, some things yes, some things no. So we're constantly like pruning our DNA, but we're actually pruning, in a sense, our cultural inheritance. And some of our pruning is neurological. Some of it is, I believe it's our kind of psyche, our sense of identity, and how on a cognitive behavioral level we react to life, how we deal with triggers, how we are responding to stimuli, the stimulus of sensations and of things that are happening to us around the world. And for me, it's been initially really hard to be me because I had so much trauma that was repressed and I didn't know about. And one solution is to run away from it. That is very effective, but it led to a lot of pathology, a lot of mental health challenges that I had because I was basically hiding and trying to repress a part of me that is me. We can't run away from ourselves. And sometimes that's the problem with antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications. They can help people, but often they also come at a cost of not supporting someone to go deeper into themselves, because they actually flatten out someone's emotions or their kind of range of reactivity to life. So our emotions guide us into what's safe, what makes me happy, what feels true, what do I want, who am I, how do I handle this feeling, this situation. Our emotions tell us that. So that's the problem with antidepressants, anti-anxiety meds, is they do all the heavy lifting, whereas it should be me doing the heavy lifting. And that means we have to accept that we hold darkness within us, but that those are treasure troves. They're filled with parts of us that need light brought to them.
So that kind of brings us to the question of psychedelics. As somebody who's been on another side of the moon and also been on this side of the moon a lot, where do you see the role of psychedelic in the society, in civilization? Where are we going? There is good research data coming in. There are people in government start talking about psychedelics. There are legalizations going slowly, but still surely in Colorado here, and then New Mexico, and Australia, and I believe in Europe some parts, maybe not to the same level, but Israel as well. So what's coming, and what do you think gonna happen to all of us, and how we're gonna heal and feel better, and also maybe find better approach or meaning or?
I love that question. I love it. It's huge. I really enjoy talking about this topic, partially because there's just so much happening in the world with psychedelics right now. Completely different progress being made in different countries or in America in different states. Loads of research, millions and millions of dollars being invested by venture capital companies, and lots of governments that are now supporting psychedelic research. So, very simply, looking at America, the FDA has given 7 different psychedelic medicines breakthrough therapy status, which is incredible. These are still drugs that are classified by the DEA as Schedule 1, having no useful medical benefit and very severe addictive risks to them to cause harm. But the FDA said with these 7 drugs like Spravato, psilocybin, MDMA and LSD in 7 different formulations, these are breakthrough therapy psychiatric medications. So that is incredible, absolutely phenomenal. Ketamine, Spravato. I work for MAPA Minds, which is a Spravato wellness center in Connecticut and New York. Spravato it's a nasal spray by Johnson & Johnson. It's been approved, I think, by the FDA about 6-7 years. This year, the last 12 months, they hit $1 billion revenue in America. And it's filling a gap right now around major depressive disorder, treatment-resistant depression, suicidality that no other medications are doing. It works completely differently to antidepressants, particularly because it hits the glutamate receptors and BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factors. So totally different to taking, Seroquel or Prozac, something like that. So that's just one thing. FDA approval process, hundreds of millions of dollars to get your drug approved, takes 10 years. The second thing I'd say is phenomenal is where you live, Colorado and Oregon. These are states that are saying, we can't wait 10 years. So many people are dying now. So many people are using psychedelics now that are not waiting for it to be legal. And this is where, in a sense, harm reduction comes in. So I see Oregon and Colorado coming in, they're prioritizing life rather than private companies, big pharma, making money and getting patents and intellectual property. So Colorado, Oregon first, saying our people deserve more options to heal, but also just to explore their reality and their kind of spiritual infrastructure. And so there's different models. Oregon doesn't have a clinical pathway, whereas Colorado does. It has recreational and clinical. Whereas in New Mexico, which just passed 2 weeks ago, they just have a clinical pathway. So using psychedelics, psilocybin, for clinical reasons. We see in Texas, there's this Ibogaine initiative that Rick Perry, the former governor of Texas, is now spearheading, particularly for veterans to use Ibogaine. And there's amazing research for opioid use disorder and traumatic brain injury with Ibogaine. So that's in America. Canada has its special access program, where it's being, it should in theory be available for people to use where other treatments are not working. Looking at in Europe, there's Switzerland, which is, I think, 15 years or so, they've got a special access program for people that have tried other therapies and medications for mental health issues to use MDMA, psilocybin, and LSD in a clinical setting. This is Switzerland. They've been doing that because they realize no other treatments are helping these people with the most severe conditions, and a lot of them are killing themselves. A lot of them are just not thriving in life. They're not working. They're not having relationships. They're not feeling happy. So psychedelics are a really good option for those people in a clinical setting. And Australia did the same thing last year. Australia did a regulatory task force to look at this question: should we fast track psilocybin and MDMA to be used for the most highest needing patients with depression and anxiety and PTSD? And they said, yeah, we should do this. So they approved it. And so now it's the first country in the world to have a clinical access to MDMA and psilocybin in that kind of a framework. So, and then another thing I think about as well, Rita, how many people are using psychedelics this weekend around the world? Millions and millions. And some of them are going to raves and parties. Some of them are going for a walk in the park. Some of them are going to an art gallery or a museum. Some of them are staying in with their partner, their spouse, and just chatting and putting music on and hanging out. Some of them are going to retreat centers in Jamaica, in Costa Rica, in Mexico, in Amsterdam. Some of them are going to ketamine clinics. Some of them are in clinical trials. It's the sheer quantity of people using psychedelics now, and the huge variation of where they use them, how they use them, why they use them. All of this is giving me confidence in the future. It also creates some concerns around safety, because so many people are using them, and they do have, a potential to make life more difficult before it makes life better. So they're not an automatic, pill that cures someone or makes them happy or makes them love themselves or achieve all their life goals or be successful or be a better husband or girlfriend or father. It doesn't do that automatically. It takes a lot of work. And so sometimes people need to be ready to put in the work, or to maybe just start slowly and to make sure that they have all of the foundations laid in their life, that they're ready to be destabilized. And in case something comes up that's really hard to deal with, that they've got support, friends and family. Maybe they've got a therapist as well. Maybe they've got a quiet couple of weeks with work and with life. Maybe the kids are at camp or work is quiet. So, okay, now's a good time in my life to go deep inside, to shake me up, to destabilize my foundations and see what comes up, and then use all my support to feel better. And that's the problem with psychedelics not being legal yet, is that a lot of people have to hide their psychedelic use because they're worried about getting in trouble, getting arrested, losing their job, or their friends and their family or their church and synagogue looking down on them. They have to keep it private from pretty much everyone. And that's not safe. Any secret we keep, it eats away at us, but especially if it means we're using something that fundamentally disorganizes our consciousness and then reorganizes it again. That is very destabilizing. So to keep that secret, that's actually, in a sense, for me, a contraindication. We need to have at least a couple of people and a bit of a plan before we should use psychedelics in a way that could destabilize us. So those are just a few thoughts. But I think where you're living in Colorado is phenomenal. Really leading the way. It's amazing. And I wish more states, more countries were doing what you're doing, because people are using psychedelics. The laws aren't there to help people be safe or to help them heal. It's there for more political, racial reasons. People are using psychedelics, so we may as well create the infrastructure so they can do it safely with just openness and transparency and information and choice and proper assessments and preparation and well-trained staff and properly regulated licensed facilities. It keeps people safe and helps them just do the preparation they need to get the most out of these experiences.
But while you're talking about a lot of people who's using psychedelics, I actually want to advocate for people like me who most of their lives haven't even heard anything about psychedelics. My first depression, when I had it, luckily SSRIs worked. I didn't know anything about psychedelics. My second depression, me already reading The Spirit of Molecular, already looking into tons of podcasts and YouTube videos and reading books and getting into it, I still thought that ketamine is a laughing gas. So there's so many of us very naive about psychedelics, and they may be still stigmatized of what happened in the 60s. But people now having options. And I think it's so important for people to understand that they have options, because now if I would need to go through the depression treatment, my first choice would not be antidepressants for the simple SSRIs, because for the simple reason that you cannot get off of them that quickly. You can try psilocybin, you can try microdosing. I would probably, if I'm thinking about myself, what I would try to psilocybin microdosing first. And then I would go and maybe try macrodose. Or I can try ketamine. And if that doesn't work, then I can think about maybe psilocybin, maybe SSRIs. But I wouldn't jump into SSRIs because there's other options. Even for anybody who doesn't know anything about psychedelics, I think it would be great if people have this in their toolbox.
It's great to have more options, and I really love what you're saying there, that as we move forward, psychedelics won't have to be a second line of treatment, so a second option. It could be first option. So it doesn't have to be that you try SSRIs first, or that you've tried psychotherapy for a year and then you can try psychedelics. It's really important to have true choice and options and proper assessment to see what's right for a person. And psychedelics come in different shapes and sizes. So yeah, I hear what you're saying. What I say to folks before they use psychedelics is, have you meditated ever? Do you do yoga? Do you ever just relax and not look at your phone and maybe do some deep breathing? Have you done breath work? Gone hiking in nature? And if they've not done any of that, I'm like, okay, so whoa, slow down. And yeah, ketamine is low dose ketamine, psycholytic, maybe a lozenge, a troche tablet, or cannabis is good to start, or microdosing psilocybin. It's definitely good to start low, see if there's any contraindications, see if any paranoia or panic comes up, But I think because antidepressants particularly, and anti-anxiety benzos, are so addictive for many people, they build a dependency and hard to stop using them. They get side effects when they try and stop. Do we want so many people to be using and addicted to antidepressants and anti-anxiety meds? Or is there another option like psychedelics? Psilocybin has virtually no risk of addiction and dependency, I wouldn't say. Ketamine, it does. MDMA, a little bit. So you need good assessment around this, but we've got a real problem right now with dependence on psychiatric medications, because they are supposed to be taken every single day, so the brain gets used to it. And when you start lowering the dose and tapering off, people get terrible side effects, suicidality, they get brain zaps, electrical kind of short circuits in their brain, their vision might change, they might feel very dizzy and nauseous, they might have ups and downs of moods. So these are really strong drugs. So I think a part of what I love about psychedelics that for me we don't see with psychiatric medications, psychedelics make us slow down in life, be more embodied, more in touch with our body, the energy in our body, the kind of the messages our body is saying to me, like, do I want to eat this? Do I want to drink this? What time do I need to go to bed tonight? What is the emotion that I'm feeling? I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling scared. Psychedelics make us slow down and feel the emotions alive in our body. And that for me is a good safety mechanism, because if we can be in touch with our body and our emotions, then we start to develop more self-care, more honesty within ourselves, so that we make better decisions and we prioritize our true highest good, not just doing things by habit or out of fear or out of anger.
Oh, I want to talk about so many things. I was just thinking placebo. I'm so into placebo studies and understanding what it is. Because if you're looking at FDA research, they say in people who get in placebo, 30% of them getting better. People who get in drug and placebo, 45% of them getting better. Excuse me, it's just 15% difference. Can we just boost the placebo? Make placebo bigger. Make placebo higher. So maybe that's what we call set and settings. That's a placebo that we really need to take with us to make that session better. And who cares if it's placebo? Why would we need to be so materialistic? It's not what psychedelics teaching us. Need to have a little bit different approach.
Yeah, that's interesting. The placebo effect is real. Particularly, there's studies looking at microdosing. Does it work, or is it just the placebo effect? I don't care so much about that research, because for me, the message it's saying is there's something inherently powerful about the human being's will and willingness to believe in being healthy, in surviving, in a sense, part of that willingness and hope and optimism is through something deep within us called the inner healing intelligence. This, we could call it a soul, we call it like a guardian within us, but there really is something programmed inside us human beings that seeks self-preservation, but also self-actualization and truth, authenticity, accountability, and it wants us to be more whole. So as I was talking before about like when we repress parts of ourselves and that we're made of darkness and light, I think the placebo effect, it shows us this, Rita. There's this natural, organic, inherent gift inside of us that can actually heal ourselves, and psychedelics tap into it. They kind of push a button that gives us permission to heal ourselves, to hear deep inside what it is we need to hear to be more whole, to be more real, to love ourselves a bit more, and just to know what it is that needs changing, or that needs doing, that needs to be felt, that needs to be remembered. And that can happen with breath work or going for a walk in nature. It can happen from having a religion, having a family, getting a good night's sleep, doing exercise, and from psychedelics just as an activator. Psychedelics are like turning the key in the engine. They're an activator, a catalyst. They're really helpful at activating our inner knowing, our inner healing intelligence, our placebo effect that starts the process of healing, that never stops. Once it starts, it never stops.
I'd like to talk more, but I know that you have a session right after this that you need to go to. What would you like to tell to all our viewers? What is your message to the world these days?
My message, ultimately, is to be curious around exploring new parts of yourself and of finding a way to hold the complexity of yourself, all of the contradictions and the diversity within us, the multiplicity of ourself. Never stop believing that there's more within us, that we can't grow, we can't learn, we can't change, we can't heal, we can't be happy. It's easy to give up, but it's easier to just keep being more and more whole. We sometimes just have to surround ourselves by the right people and devote some time to really listening to that voice from deep within us that never gives up. It's always there, just saying, don't give up. Listen to me, trust me, believe in me, love me. I'm here. So yeah, tune into it. If you're not tuned in at the moment, then yeah, tune in.
Thank you. That was so cool. Appreciate you, David. And please, guys, like, subscribe, and read about David in the description of this YouTube. So please go and find him. Let's build a community. Thank you so much.
This was fun. Thanks, Rita. No, this was really fun. I love being here. Thanks for having me on.